One big joke. It's a fucked up world. Here we are in. I ain't going nowhere.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Reason Reborn. I actually forgot the episode number, so whatever the number episode is, this is the one that it is. As you can see, I have my face on today, although I feel like I should turn it off. Because I disappointed my co-host, Cardiac Zero. How are you today, Lee?
Disappointed. Fine otherwise, man.
It's okay. You'll get to see her next week.
Maybe the country isn't, but I'm surviving, I suppose.
Yeah, this country, yeah. I'm sorry, what was that noise?
That was on your side, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I hope it was. Sounded like it was on your side.
It may be. It was just like a weird buzzing noise.
Yeah, I definitely heard it.
Okay, so something's going on here. I'm scared. The hell is in here?
The government sent a drone for one of us. I'm trying to
If you see like my whole feed go black, you know what time it is, people. Like something's happened. I'm probably getting blipped out of the universe somehow. Like an Infinity War.
Nerd.
I guess.
I didn't read comics this week. I forgot about that.
And I'm the nerd. He's upset that he didn't read his comics. Anyway. So we are through talking about we were going to talk about the aftermath of the inauguration, but it's really not much to talk about. I mean,
Impeachment
GOP
trial.
is crazy. Yeah, the inauguration. Jesus, the impeachment trial. The GOP is crazy. There is a couple of things that came out as they held hearings with the U.S. Capitol Police, who gave like their accounting of the whole situation. In particular, the acting head of the U.S. Capitol Police mentioning that there's fear that there's going to be a bomb attack on the day of Biden's first State of the Union address. Now, that date hasn't been announced, but I guess there's rumors that people are planning to use whatever the date is to mount an attack. And for those who don't know, the National Guard is still on duty here. I know because I have friends in the National Guard, and I was surprised when they were like, "Oh yeah, I'm still on duty. I haven't been back to my regular job since the 6th. The shit on the 6th happened." So they still have them down there, like basically on, standby, which is pretty damn sad. So
Yeah. And obviously we all know how it went. It went as expected. The trial, I should say.
I heard the video of that lady getting shot is out somewhere. I don't necessarily want to see it, but I hear that's been released somehow.
Yeah, I'll pass on that. There's better shows to watch.
Yeah, definitely.
Morbid way to say that. I'm sorry.
I mean, it's a show for some people, I'm pretty sure. I mean, some people...
Yeah, those people should be on the list.
And they probably already are.
I'll just say it real quick, because I've been going through this book. I hope I've mentioned it before. What's it called? I pulled it up here. Kill Switch, The Rise of the Modern Senate and the Crippling of American Democracy. And it kind of brought up something that made me think of that trial, which is the way that system is set up. And I think you even sent me a tweet that kind of pointed this same thing out. It's possible for like the minority to essentially get what they want, to stop certain things because of the level of vote you need to accomplish certain things. And maybe the impeachment and trial like that is justified, but like, I mean, you see that with the abuse of like stuff with like filibuster, right? Even though they're not the majority opinion, the majority of people, they can constantly stop things from happening. And there's extreme power in that. I've kind of felt that when I was watching the vote on that trial. It's like most of the people technically voted for the right thing, and it still didn't happen.
Yeah, the count. What was it? They got 43% of the. No, they got 60. How many votes was it? Because it was 57%. That's what it is. 57% of the Senate voted to for impeachment, which means that 43% beat 57.
Yeah.
Crazy. It's like baseball. You know, if it were a baseball game, you'd be a like fucking ultra star.
Again, maybe you want to argue something as serious as that needs, a higher threshold, supermajority or whatever. But again, because of stuff like the filibuster, a lot of things fall down to a supermajority. So again, we constantly find ourselves in this situation where the minority gets to stop the majority from acting. And I just wanted to bring that up real quick because I was going through the book, and as he's talking about like how the Senate came to be and this sort of dynamic happened to be watching that whole process take place, I'm like, yeah, he's right. That is fucking weird. I don't remember if it was you who sent me the tweet, but the lady in the tweet pretty much just said, yeah, once again, the minority gets what they want.
Yeah, it's just very, very weird though, because most people want the things that are being talked about from the Democratic Party. Like, most people kind of do want $15 an hour. Most people would love to have free health care. Most people would love to have their debt wiped away. But the people who don't, the minority, have the biggest say-so on whether or not you can have any of that stuff. And it's just...
Sure, they should have the say-so in the sense that they get a vote like everyone else. But yeah, it is... I never thought about it in that way until I, going through that book that kind of phrased it that way, where a minority can essentially get what they want over the majority, essentially just... Which I guess works when your goal is mostly just to obstruct and stop shit instead of passing shit, then yeah. If you're not trying to actually pass shit, you don't really need votes. You could just stop the other person from getting votes.
Yeah, you just have enough people who will say no, and you win.
I mean, maybe that seems super obvious to everybody else, but it's just a nice way to frame it that I hadn't thought about.
Well, I think it's one of those things that everybody knows, but nobody necessarily pays attention to until something like this happens. Yeah. Because like everybody always says like, oh, they don't care. Politicians aren't trying to help, blah, 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 blah. But like, I think most people basically understand especially when they tell you on TV that, hey, they're going to need pretty much 67% of the people to say yes. So,
I guess maybe part of my issue too is I've just, based on the time I've grown up, I'm just kind of accustomed to the idea that things take, quote unquote, super majority to pass. Like, so I just kind of accept that as normal, that's required, and that's why things can't get done, as opposed to just like a regular majority, like 51 out of 100, I should say, in the Senate.
Yeah, they need to seriously take care of certain rules that allow that. It's just like the filibuster. Everybody wants to protect the fucking filibuster when the filibuster is probably one of the biggest things that obstruct your ability to just pass stuff and not have to worry about it getting overturned or anything, or to get blocked by somebody who just decides, I'm going to stand here and I'm going to read like this book of nursery rhymes over and over again until you see this point. Like, because that's literally what you can do in a filibuster. You don't really have to be like on point. You could just basically say, I'm filibustering in opposition of this, and once you've said that you can pretty much just be like hickory dickory dock, mouse right up the clock for like as many hours as you can.
It's apparently the original supposed purpose is, to keep discussion going or whatever. But apparently you don't actually have once you do it, you don't actually have to have a discussion or an argument or anything. It's not like a rule. Apparently. Yeah. So I was like, all right, things are useless. We just waste time. Yeah, I didn't need to dwell on that. It just crossed my mind as I was closing up the book a bit earlier. I'm definitely need to go through this another time because I kind of need to focus on it. I can't just listen to it half-ass like other books.
Yeah. It's the dumbness of politics, I guess. Sad. Speaking of more sad stuff, so the last few weeks we've had an uprising in violence against Asians in this country or people of Asian descent. There's been weird attacks going on, like just people randomly being pushed or beaten, kidnapped. I think a couple of times came up. Just random attacks and violence towards Asian Americans, and seems to all be stemming from the pandemic, which it's just very, very strange that we're at, maybe I should say back at this point, because I remember early on when things were locked down, there was a talk of people kind of saying things to Asian Americans, but not on this level. It seems like it's manifesting to a more violent stance when it comes to virus. I mean, the verbal abuse is still there. As I'm a former NBA player who's playing in the G League, which is, for those who don't know, like the minor leagues of the NBA. He said that he's been getting verbal abuse, like not just from the stands, but on the court. Like he said, someone called him coronavirus on the court, which why? And all this types of stuff. You got Olivia Munn out here pretending like she's really Psylocke, helping people from getting attacked.
I mean, like you said, it was something that started up pretty early in all this pandemic shutdown and whatnot. I remember this. I realized it was going to be a serious kind of thing. Even before I heard stories, I was already thinking about how that was going to be a problem. Partially just because it always kind of is a problem with that sort of thing. If we have, some sort of military conflict with someone in the Middle East, like a terrorist attack or something, I'm sure you see an uptick in crimes against people of Middle Eastern descent. So I've always been sort of concerned about it. I haven't really noticed too many stories in the past year, so maybe I've just been kind of naive or not paying attention to it since then. It's ugly and racist. I don't know how much more you can say about it, and it's stupid. Even if you think, maybe China mishandled that or something, that's not a reason to take it out on random Asian American people.
Especially since it getting over here isn't necessarily all China's fault.
When I say China, I mean like as a government, not as a people, just to be clear.
Oh no, even that. It's like this whole thing, because you could blame China for the origins of the disease. Every country on this planet can. But here's the thing. Instead of just lashing out and blaming, and I'm sure there were some issues in other countries. The thing is, other countries have stepped forward and addressed this whole situation and have managed it a lot better to where they're in a lot better places. And I think this is the problem. The anger that they're expressing towards Asians, people of Asian descent in this country, is just them lashing out their frustrations that they should be like verbally displaying against the government and how they've handled it in the United States. Because we've seen like places like New Zealand and parts of Europe, um, hell, even in China, where the whole thing started, things were appropriately taken care of and they're in a better place. Like just this past week or so, during this big Chinese break, holiday break, they put out a mandate. They're like, look, since this is usually our traveling season, travel is not the best thing. So, you know, just stay in the country and be safe. So what did people do? They started going to the movies and places like that, and they were record breaking, um, box office for some movies in China over this past week because they're able to go to movies again and not necessarily sit side by side, but it was pretty full, because they've handled it. If the ground zero is better than we are, think about that.
Sure. I do want to point out, I don't know how much and where it's relevant to blame them. Because I think there's still a lot of stuff we don't really know, like about how this virus cropped up. Like early on, people were like, "Oh, somebody ate a bat." Like, as far as I know, we still haven't really discovered like where it came from. There's beliefs from some people, or at least the possibility that maybe it was an escape from a lab or whatever. Again, I just don't think we actually know enough stuff, and some investigations still need to take place. So I don't want to go too far and be like, yeah, it was China's fault, fuck, or anything like that, because I don't think we have the answers we need, and I'm fine staying a bit agnostic on that. But I do agree with your point that their frustrations, some of them may be feeling. I think some of them are probably just racist, but to the extent that some of them are feeling the economic pressures and whatnot, it is not the fault of China, just China, or it certainly isn't the fault of random Asian people on the street.
Yeah, like it's because they have nothing to do with it. They're, especially if you're over here, they're going through the same things that we're going through. It's not like they came over here as carrier. Most of these people are Asian Americans. They're born here. So it's not like they decided to be carriers and hosts for this to spread it among you or anything like that. Like, no, this isn't no deep, dark, plan by China to infiltrate. Like, it's funny because I sent you the thing and you thought it said like the attack of Asians, but I feel like that's how people are treating this. Like, this is an Asian insurrection via human hosts to like take down like this country, or at least that's how they're trying to frame it. For, like I said, what's in reality just you're upset because things aren't back to normal the way that you want them to, and your government officials aren't doing what they need to get it back that way.
On that note, they're every bit as susceptible to that virus as the rest of us. And I remember early on, like little comments here and there about maybe staying away from Asian people or whatever, like people getting nervous about that. And it's like, back at that time, there was like big outbreaks in Europe. So I was like, you're every bit as likely to get it from like a white person coming from Europe as you are from like an Asian person or whatever. Because, again, it was early on. So we were somewhat concerned about people coming in from other countries that hadn't like spread countrywide like that yet. And it's like, it's popping up lots of other places and you can get it from any fucking direction. So
yeah,
you're being kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, because like any transmittable disease like that, any virus that can spread like that, it doesn't matter what your nationality is. If it's going to cling to whoever and it's going to pass over and over again. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's
just dumb.
Dumb and, again, racist and sadly predictable. That's why I brought up the example of what happens with people from Middle Eastern descent, whenever we have, say, a terrorist attack or military conflict with someone from the same region. I remember like years ago, there was like some terrorist attack here. And on Facebook, people were like getting really angry. I made some comments about how like you should tone down the anger because like you're raising the temperature. And I was like commenting on like some friend status. I was like, I get it. Maybe you won't do something crazy, but these other people here, they're getting all fucking stoked up, reading this kind of shit every day. Some maniac's gonna go out there and punch like an old lady or some shit. Like I don't think sometimes people really think about how they're affecting like the flavor of social media on a given day.
No, because there's a lot of like people who are quickly riled up on social media that will go and do dumb shit. We know this because January 6th, that was a thing. And it's funny because I bring that up, but thinking about it, y'all got all this energy to want to fight Asian people for existing because coronavirus came from Asia. So they must be punished for coming from Asia. I don't know. I can't even think of a reason, I'm not even trying to think of a sensible reason, but like something that sounds at least coherent enough to connect when I say it. Yeah. Like it's not even a like well-sounding conspiracy theory. Like some conspiracy theories, you could say, well, wow, you clearly you connected dots from things, but by like loosely basing them off of things. I can't think of any loose base material to do this one. I don't know why you feel the need to beat up on Asians and people of Asian descent. It's fucking stupid. Like it is really, really stupid. Yeah, like that's part of it, but it's just like your racism is fucking like dumb. It's dumber. It's on a dumber scale, it seems like. But my point is, I mean, they got all this energy for this. You don't have this energy to punch the shit out of somebody who went down to that fucking Capitol and caused people to die and thought that it was a smart idea to try to overthrow the government and murder government officials for Donald Trump.
To be fair, some of those people might be sympathetic to that view.
And see, I know, and that's the problem. Because it's mainly those type of people who went down there who are probably doing this dumb shit. Although there've been accounts, I will say this, there's been accounts of a lot of African Americans, in particular in New York, having these attacks, which sad for me to say is I understand that because, yeah, white people are the largest prejudice group in this country, but we as African Americans got a lot of fucking prejudice that we don't want to admit.
Sure. Yeah, I wasn't assuming anything about the demographic of those people. I was just making the general point that level of idiocy is a widespread thing in this country. As far as, thinking a lot of people thought the election was rigged. And it's easy to focus on the people who are the most extreme and willing to actually go out and do the crazy shit. But we should always remember the people who are, like if it's a spectrum or like a bar graph from like 0 to 100, it's easy to focus on the people who are at 100, but there's like a lot of people in between to be worried about too. So I think some of them might have been sympathetic. And to your point about, other races like Black people, yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of other people get a pass, or we don't talk about racism from non-white groups, but it's a thing. Like, and not even just racism, but like say homophobia has been a thing in the Black community worth talking about, partially because there's a lot of religiosity in the Black community. There is racism from other people who are not. I'm not sure I say this like it's payback or something, but like there is some racism from Asian people too against like Black people. It's not like it's not as just like white people are just racist against everybody and nobody has. So I am glad you brought that up because it's a fair thing to say that we often just kind of overlook as though only straight white men ever do anything wrong.
Yeah, I mean, hey, they're the largest perpetrators, of course, but it's not exclusive, especially when it comes to something like this, because it's weird to be like, I don't know, good enough term to like say it. So I'll just use this since it's a stupid term anyway. But it's a weird, like, trickle down racism type thing that we have in this country. It's just like, if the situation seems to dictate it, it'll filter through all groups because, like, it's not just white people who have issues with Hispanic groups coming over this country and quote unquote taking our jobs. Again, they're probably the largest demographic, but I know plenty of people, even in my family, who've said things that were like, "Yo, what the fuck are you talking about? That's stupid as shit." Like, they coming over here, they just taking up all the space and all this. I'm like, what? Shut up! Like, you so stupid. Like, is that not what most people's forefathers did in this country, with the exception of most African Americans? But still,
I have, a family member who, I've had conversations with them about religion because I'm the only non-religious person in the family, and they went pretty hard on Islam. And you can always discuss the modern differences between the religions or whatever, fine, but like he went like really in on that. It's like, it's not even a religion, it's blah blah blah, and I'm like, you're giving Christianity like a weird pass, as though there's nothing wrong with it. I'm not trying to do like a false equivalency there. It's just like, I don't know that I'd go as far as to call it racist, but it was concerning. It was weird. I didn't know how quite to interpret it.
Well, no, it's just one of those things. It's a good example of how we are as human beings, as far as prejudice goes, because most people, like I said, the trickle down effect thing, where it seems like for some people, it's it's a larger deal or a larger part of how they view things. For some, it just seems to just pass through when it comes to particular things. It reminds me of that joke on Jerry Springer, the episode where he made a joke about a dentist, and they like made this whole big deal about him being an anti-dentite because he made jokes about dentists and stuff like that. So the dentist community kind of turned their back on him and wouldn't, they wouldn't fuck with him, even though he needed to get his
Seinfeld, right?
Yeah, Seinfeld. And it ends with him as at a wedding and all of that, and he's sitting next to this pretty lady, and they're having a conversation, and like she cracks a joke about dentists, and he laughs, and like he's like, "Yeah, I get it." She's like, "Yeah, I really don't like dentists." And those Jews. He just like, and it's just like, yeah, there's always going to be somebody who's like going to agree with you something, but then they're going to take it a step way further than where your prejudice lie. So it's just like, it's weird. It's like, it's okay to not like this stuff, but then there's going to be this hate right here, or you won't accept like people, just like there are homosexuals who fight for their rights, but they'll do some racist shit too. Things like that. So it's a weird, like, it's just a weird part of humanity and how we do things. Like, seriously.
And I kept keying in on it being racist, partially because the relationship between black and white people in this country is like so fucking pervasive that sometimes like other race discussions just don't really get that attention. like I remember I was going through some book about like anti-Semitism, even hell, even before like the Jewish space laser thing came up. Thinking about it due to some other articles, that it's like we often don't think about just like how much anti-Semitism is still here, like in this country. You look at the attack on the Capitol. You know, people brandishing Nazi symmetry, like that guy with the something about Auschwitz shirt. I'd have to go back and look at the shirt. I can't remember what it said, but it was like an Auschwitz shirt. I mean, well, there's a large strain of racism and anti-Semitism just in that group that often doesn't get talked about. You know, a similar thing here. Like there's plenty of anti-Asian racism that maybe we don't think enough about.
No, it's not until it's in our face like this. It's in our face now with the whole thing. And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot. We suck at this too. And that's the funny thing about like,
or the kids in the cages. Yeah.
Right. I was just about to say that's the funny thing because you know, Donald Trump comes along and it's reminds like, oh yeah, we really don't treat Hispanic people well after you see the whole thing with the cages and all of that. And it's just like as I always say, as far as we've come in like a lot of places, stuff like this happens and it just reminds you of just how much further we have to go in our society. Because Jesus Christ. Like you've fucking beaten people because of a disease that they have that's killing them too. That's the thing. Like it's not like they like.
I was thinking about it.
You think this is like the equivalent of fucking Pearl Harbor kamikazes or something? Come on.
I was like, you know, for all now, you know, I was thinking about those stories where people got attacked. Where I was like, for all you know, that person lost a family member to this thing. Like, you have no fucking idea what's going on with them.
Yeah,
not that it would be okay to attack them if they didn't. I'm just saying, like, you're acting like they're immune or they aren't suffering just like you. Maybe they lost their job too. You don't fucking know.
They go through. Everybody's going through the same struggle that you are going through when it comes to the disease. Why are you singling them out? I don't.
And you know, it all goes back to your point too about not pointing the anger in the right direction. Because you know, the same thing with like Hispanic people supposedly taking jobs. Well, you know, it was your business leaders and some of your politicians sending some of those jobs away, automating them out, not helping you economically when those jobs went away.
And then like I hate using this a lot, but there's that old proverbial, well, most of the jobs that they end up getting are those jobs that most Americans aren't necessarily taking anyway, aren't striving for. Like, it's a stereotype, but
I guess
most like fast food places I go around here, it's mainly like foreign people, especially Hispanic people running. Like, they will take the jobs that you won't.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it's just like it's a fiction. They're invested in a fiction.
Yeah.
And using it to be racist.
Because I don't see a lot of those people crossing the border fucking taking your job. Like, there's not a flood of fucking computer programmers.
Oh, my job.
Like, destroying, like, you know, the American job market, like, for that.
I suppose not. Although I will say we have a lot of, not just in my field, but this might just be an indictment of American education in general. But, like, yes, we do have a lot of first generation people who take high level jobs, but you know, again, maybe that's an indictment on education here.
Yeah, it's because it's finally being allowed to happen because it wasn't allowed to happen. Like, and maybe that is part of the fear. Like, I joke about that thing, but maybe that's why it's starting to become a bigger problem because you are starting to get a lot of first generation children who are taking advantage of, you know, opportunities or able to get those opportunities, I should say, to educate themselves to that point, and who are becoming like the doctors, the lawyers, the computer programmers and things like that, and that's probably part of the fear. It's like,
I'm sorry,
oh, now.
I shouldn't have said first generation. I guess I just meant like actual like immigrants coming
No,
here.
I know what you mean, because like
Yeah.
the first generation of Americans from your family.
Right.
Yeah. But I think that may be an issue too. Is that, now more and more of their children are citizens. You all are citizens, and you are, moving in different places like that weren't, available before. I don't know.
You know what? They're also Americans. Like, because I don't want to push that line too far and act like there's some great distinction between somebody who maybe moved here from like Africa or Europe or something like last year. Well, maybe they wouldn't technically be a citizen in just a year because the fucking process takes forever. But you know what I mean? Like, they came here, they're a citizen. So like, it's not even really nice, or I could say like, oh, other people are coming and taking our jobs. Well, those other people are us now. So
yeah, it's like you didn't come here; you were born here.
And on that note, like, a lot of those same people will be like, you need to pull yourself up from your bootstraps and blah blah blah. It's like, well, if you're gonna suck the free market stick, you should also accept that there's competition in markets. So,
all right,
ask yourself, why can't you outcompete those people for those jobs that you supposedly want? That might sound harsh, but like, if you're going to accept that sort of philosophy about business, you can't just bitch when it didn't work out for you.
Yeah, I mean, we've lived in a country where other people couldn't get those opportunities, no matter how well educated and how qualified they were, because of all types of bullshit. It's part of why I like always like have a problem with people I guess now we're moving into the subject of cancel culture. But this is why I hate the fucking talk of cancel culture in that term. Because you hear people like, oh, I can't say what I want now. And so now I'm getting canceled and like my job's being taken care of. Like, I saw somebody complain about like the fucking Gina Carano thing again. And they were saying, well, maybe Stephen Miller has a point in a way when he says things about like how now it's difficult for people to like maintain a living because of this whole thing. But it's like, wait. For eons in this country, people weren't allowed to make a living because of their skin tone and their gender. People have had to live under a system where if you're a woman, if you were to say something about, I don't like how you guys are telling these like sexist jokes, could you please stop? You'd lose your job because you're seen as a complainer. You're not just accepting what goes on here and just keeping quiet and letting it happen. If you're that black guy that's going to file a report of racism, you're a problem. So you can't work here because you're not a part of the team and things like that. Like, people have been canceled, seriously canceled, for wanting to be treated decently. Now, all of a sudden, there are rules and laws and things, in place that are telling you should not be doing these things. You should not be, offensive. You should not be discriminative. All of that stuff. You shouldn't treat a person poorly or deny them because of their gender, race, sexuality. And if you, go out and do things that are considered offensive or harmful, you got to go, because we don't want to have a situation where people are being harmed. That's not cancel culture, because you're not being canceled. You are being asked to adhere to the rules.
I mean, yeah, I was reading some comment the other day. I do think that there is, I don't know what the word is. I was going to say increased sensitivity. I do think there is that, but we were all thinking about it more. I do think sometimes I do see overreactions in some areas, but a lot of times when people bring up this idea of like cancel culture, And while I agree that sometimes I do see like weird overreactions about weird things, the examples they always use are like cut and dry, stupid examples. like you mentioned the Gina Carano thing. What she said was not like some minor verbal misstep. First of all, she's done that shit multiple times.
Yeah.
And it was serious each time. Like, so if you want to make that point, you have to stop looking to these random examples where people were like racist or homophobic or, and again, they're not verbal missteps. They're not just like, oh, I accidentally said something and it came out the wrong way and blah, blah, blah. They're usually doing something pretty obviously stupid and wrong. And they're not apologizing for it a lot of times too. So
generally, it's a very pointed comment. Like we just recently had a situation where a sports executive for the Seattle Mariners, he made some comments, oddly enough, about I think mainly Asian players, but foreign-born players in general. I forget what it was, but it's really, really stupid. It was a very pointed, like, specific thing. It wasn't like him telling an old joke or coming out and slipping and using slang that he shouldn't have, which happens to people, things like that. No, he was really he was making like a real specific thing that he said. And that's where people seem to be. It's not like get another example is there was I think he was a race car driver or a country music singer or something. He got caught on video coming home drunk one night. I think I don't know what he was doing, but he was just acting the fool, yelling, and in his whole like shit, he said the N-word. And like, to me, stuff like that, that's just like, okay, that's offensive, but that's you making a mistake. You've been warned. Chill out, relax. Gina Carano, people like that, these aren't just simple mistakes. They are coming out and they're saying things in an offensive manner to be offensive. And they know that's the thing. It's like, you guys trying to act like they don't know that they fucked up. They know what they're saying. And that's what makes it worse, especially Gina Carano. Again, like you said, she's done it plenty of times before. She knows what she's doing. So no. I can't.
Well, I'll never understand that because, again, whenever I say I do think people can be now, the sensitivity might be too high in areas. I always feel comfortable saying that because these people always bring up like the stupidest examples to try and prove that point. Like, I'm not sympathetic to any of the examples people keep wanting to throw out. And, there's a certain tactic on the, socio-political right in this country where they just kind of hijack any given fucking idea. And so they like the general idea that there's some oversensitivity is correct, but now they're trying to apply it because, now you're not allowed to just be racist anymore. Now, anything they'll try to diminish certain extreme ideas they have as just like a political opinion. I can't decide my political opinions anymore. It's like just an opinion. You're saying they're acting like they're not saying something pretty fucking radical at times.
All right. Like the snowflake shit, as corny as it is, and as I could see it being offensive, I wouldn't want to get somebody fired for calling me a snowflake. That's not going to bother me at all. But if you come out and say some shit like, the reason that you don't have a lot of African Americans winning seats is because African Americans just generally don't understand politics at all. Now we got a problem because you're clearly stating that you think that we don't have the intelligence to understand how to do the job. Now we got a problem. Stuff like that. That's a specific thing. Like, yeah, no. Calling me a snowflake because of my ideology, fuck you. You just mad because I have better ideas than you. Get out of my face. That's how I would treat that or something like that. Or I come back and call them a snowflake because they really are the snowflakes now when you think about it. The way they react to being caught and having to take responsibility for saying dumb shits like the example I made about black people understanding politics. So
I like
kind of
to
weird.
judge that. They've always been snowflakes.
Yeah, I agree.
Remember
100%.
I always hated that when they do that, because the example I used a couple years ago was around Hillary when she called them deplorables or whatever. And I was like, it's so fascinating that people who claim everybody else needs to grow up and grow a pair and stop being snowflakes have been crying for 2 fucking years straight over the mean old lady who lost and ran away to the woods. That she called him a deplorable that one time. I lived in Florida, right? You know what Florida's like. Bumper stickers, like I'm a deplorable. Shirts, I guess I'm deplorable. Like, you guys have been crying for 2 years.
Right,
Because
like
the
it's
loser said one comment.
Yeah, like, man, this is so hard.
That one comment from that old lady changed your whole fucking life. And you have the audacity to call anybody else a snowflake. But go back further. When I was younger, constantly was this argument from Republicans that they're stomping all over our religious rights. What? Come on, bro. Like, who was stomping over Christian? Back when we started to say like happy holidays instead of Merry Christmas more often, they act like somebody stabbed their mother. Like,
yeah, no, somebody made a good point on the podcast I was listening. It was like, you want to know a good example of like how soft they could be? Tell a white politician they're racist and watch how they get like all fucking throw a fit. Remember Matt Gaetz when somebody mentioned like, a comment that he made is racist and he went on that thing, I adopted a Hispanic kid and I did this and that. This is like, you really, really upset about that. Like that. And dude was just sitting there like, making fun of him, like hit dog holler, all that. And he was just like, yep, the shoe fits, hit dog holler, sure, yeah, whatever. And he's like, Matt Gaetz was just like losing his fucking shit over this. It's like,
I mean, that is a sign of progress, though. Like, you used to just say, yeah, I'm a racist. So, maybe there's a bit of a pendulum swing because it does kind of feel like it's going more in that direction. But
no, I think for a while they don't like. I would say maybe earlier days, like they would be like shrugging their shoulders. But I feel like post Civil War, it really ticks them off because they don't want to have that, which I find weird when you think about it, leading up to like the Civil Rights Act and all that. It kind of was socially accepted that you are racist. So why are you trying to pretend like you're not racist? Like all your policies, everything you do, like Brown versus education, you weren't fighting the fight in Brown versus education on the side of equality, you were trying to do the segregation things, it is weird that they didn't just like shrug and like, and like, but nowadays though, it's just like, they lose their shit, and it's always the people who are racist that lose their shit the most.
That's why I said it's progress. Like, to be bothered by just being called a racist kind of shows that at least the idea of being racist is problematic. Obviously, there's people who. That's not to say that like nobody's racist. It's just like there's at least a level of shame where you don't want to be outright called a racist anymore. Unless, you're an actual white supremacist who's proud to use that phrase. Or asking questions like what's wrong with white supremacy?
Right, like, because most people, if you say like, yo, that sounds kind of racist, if you're generally not a racist person, you'll think about it, oh, yeah, that did sound bad. I am so sorry I said that. I really shouldn't be using it because that's not cool. And then it moves on.
Pretty much, yeah.
It's just one of those things. Hopefully, this whole violence against people of Asian descent Well, just go. Like, come on, people, grow the fuck up. It's fucking the 21st century. Can we please get over some of this stuff? God.
It's boredom, man. You know, Asian lives matter. It sounded weird. And it sounded like I was being sarcastic, but like I'm being serious.
But
I don't know how I was supposed to say that because I'm not good with words, apparently. But like,
but when you
know, a lot
hearing you say that though, it makes me realize like we kind of like I know like you get the counter bullshit like Blue Lives Matter or All Lives Matter shit, but I really do feel like for things of serious nature, you can kind of just attach that matter thing to it and it's like, yeah, because clearly we're showing that there are people who act like it don't and don't understand that for real. Like, geez.
And partially I was just pointing out, like, you know, in those Black Lives Matter protests and whatnot, it wasn't just black people. There's people from all over. Hispanic people, Asian people, you know, should all stand together and stand against being racist and shitty. As obvious as that sounds.
Yeah, and that's generally what you get when you get those slogans from that side of a thing. But when you get the Blue Lives Matter thing, you know, it's generally just the blue people who say that. Like nobody's just like, yeah.
And that is a perfect example of what I was pointing to before, of them having this strategy of just like co-opting whatever phrases you use and like perverting them. Like, even using the term woke now is kind of, I don't know if it's fair to say it's a pejorative, but like,
I hate that.
It's not positive.
Yeah. No, because now it's a sarcastic dig now. Like, see, this is what happens when people are woke. Oh, like, okay, now it's just like the whole thing's marginalized. Okay.
Yeah. Phrases can just get turned on their heads. Yeah, I don't know. I was just thinking of this sign. I saw somebody holding up, like, I guess it was at a BLM protest, and it said like the yellow menace stands with the, I don't know, Black Lives or something. But like, you know, unity, folks. Everybody matters.
Yeah.
I got distracted. There's like I guess I had Twitch on that other thing and it like auto plays, and there's like this dog that just hopped up in a chair, started barking into the mic.
I got distracted because like there's like I saw something on Twitter that reminded me of just like something stupid that happened today with LeBron James. That was racially related. A European soccer player made comments that were just the stupidest thing in the world. Let me see if I can find it. And then we will move on to another stupid thing. Texas legislation and the government officials. So very popular European soccer player named Zlatan made a comment about LeBron James and his political stance. He is phenomenal in what he's doing, but I don't like when people have some kind of status and they do politics. I play football because I'm the best in playing football. That is the first mistake people do when they become famous and they come in a certain status. Stay out of it. Just do what you do best because it doesn't look good. And of course, now he's getting lit up because, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking through that because for some reason, like, I know we're talking about LeBron.
Yeah.
But I just went straight to like other people who are like, who have to show off their dumb political opinions.
Yeah, the funny thing is you're making a statement, a political statement in a way.
Sure.
When you say that, it's just funny.
Because I mean, there is a certain level of like hubris some celebrities have where they kind of just think they can, that they're much smarter than they are in some cases. I don't know that that's fair to say of LeBron, but like, first of all, just to knock his point away, anybody should be able to be involved in the political process. that's what it, we're all in this together. There's no reason to preclude any of them from having some sort of political stance and opinion out loud and having some involvement. Everybody gets to fucking vote, right? So like,
yeah,
that idea alone is just stupid.
And it's funny because another very outspoken basketball player who is European in birth, Enes Kanter. He's a Turkish basketball player who is famously known, like, you may not know this, but this guy can't go back fucking home because this government is looking for him and his family. And he's kind of like, because he's a very outspoken political activist and an advocate for, better treatment for his people against the current political regime over there. So yeah, like, this man's got a walking target on his back in a way. And he's commented, he was like, he said, someone tell Zlatan, there is a difference between political opinions and speaking up against persecution, oppression, and calling out dictators. Black Lives Matter isn't a political statement. It's speaking up against oppression. In America, we call it freedom of speech.
I don't know that I really care to make such a distinction, because he can still have a political opinion too.
But no, he can. But like, the thing is, I think he makes a very good point, because the things that you generally hear said by athletes aren't necessarily based on their political ideology. It's not like they're all speaking necessarily from like, well, as a, liberal, I feel this type of thing. It's usually directed towards specific topics, such as racism, things like that. So
maybe take a step back from it, because I don't, follow the sports. I don't follow Ron either in particular. I guess when you brought that up, I was under the impression he was like delving into politics in like an official manner, or like,
and in the way he does with like the people he support and things like that, like financially, or people he,
well, anybody can make a donation.
Yeah, or the people that he like, he champions and things like that. Like, he has a lot of political friends. I think the fact that he is he's boys with Obama. Obama was on his fucking TV show, letting him interview him not too long ago, like stuff like that. So you know how that goes. People are always going to make sure, like, if you have a politician that speaks the language that you like, you're straight up political anyway. That's just always how it's going to be for a lot of people. But so in that aspect, yes. But yeah, in a lot of times, I think it's the way that people say that. It's like they're not really, like, Enes Carter is very political. He is concerned about the way that his country is being ran, directed, everything. Like, it's not just that. It's like he is heavily involved in that arena, on top of, like, speaking out against oppression and all of that stuff. But most people like LeBron, they're not super duper into the minutiae of the things. They just have things that they believe in. They speak out for them. And either way you put it, whether he wants to be political or if it's not political, he has the right to do that.
So far it doesn't sound like he's doing anything a regular citizen could not do, except that he has, I guess, celebrity status. If you want to argue about the power of celebrity, that feels like a different kind of discussion. But he's not really doing, from what I'm gleaning from this conversation, he's not really doing anything all that crazy. So it's not like he started a super PAC or something, or it's not like he's,
Right, exactly. Like, he's not a lobbyist.
Because I guess that was kind of the sense I was getting when this came up, was that he's like really, if not like lobbying to become a politician, locally or something, at least offering like serious direct financial backing in the form of like a super PAC or something. Like, if he just says like don't kill black people, it's not really all that interesting or crazy.
Yeah.
But I do want to piggyback off that real quick because I think that it also relates to what I was talking about before, where you have these people who will just say, you know, blah, 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 something fucking crazy. This is my political opinion. You can't hate me just because I have a political opinion. They're always like underplaying what their opinion is. Like, we should put kids in cages. It's not like, you know, that's not just like an opinion reasonable people can disagree on. There's certain, I don't know what you call it, like minimal levels of morality and logic that we have to apply.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but like the fact that he's doing the shut up and dribble thing to me is weird. And I feel it weird when I hear other athletes do that, telling other athletes to just do your job, because especially him, he's a very outspoken guy. Now he's very outspoken in probably the worst way because he's a raging egotist. Like, we find it funny because he feels like he's the greatest, you know, of all time, and nobody's better than him, and blah 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 blah. And Zlatan is the best, and all that. Like, we feel like, you're funny, like, but it's like, no, you of all people shouldn't tell somebody to shut up. Somebody should tell you to shut up sometimes because of some of the things that you say.
So speaking of egotists, though, like part of the reason I sort of hesitated and wasn't really willing to just crap all over that statement at first was because when he said it, I was actually thinking of like Trump, like a celebrity who has some level of status who just assumes they can do it better than everybody, you know, better than everyone else. And that might be part of why I was thinking LeBron's involvement was a little bit more direct and officially political, because there are some people who are like, yeah, you know, I'm a fucking genius. I'm great at everything. I can run the country. I don't need to have any knowledge of history or politics or economics or anything relevant. So I do think there are celebrities with the level of ego to behave that way, but they shouldn't be forced to stay out because they're a celebrity.
Yeah, no.
They have anybody can have dumb opinions.
Yeah. They just will get more shit for it or more praise for it because we know who they are. That's all.
If you want to talk about the influence of celebrities, that's a weird and different philosophical argument to make.
Yeah. Yeah, I would never say they should not say anything because of what they do. That's just the dumbest thing. Now, should they say certain things? We can have that story, of course, because everybody's going to have an opinion on whether or not they think something is stupid or not.
Sure. You get it with actors and everything. This idea that like, oh, you're not in this realm, so you can't talk. That's just logically stupid. Like, yeah. I bet he's made a comment about a movie he either liked or hated and never made a movie in his fucking life. So like, what is he talking about? Like, do you need to be in film to have any opinion on a film? Do you need to be a published writer to have an opinion on a book? Has he never commented on a song? I bet he's not a singer. Like, it's just logically stupid. Yeah. And yet he's not the only one that makes that sort of comment. People do it in like every fucking arena. Hell, I've seen people do it in wrestling where they're like, you know, you're not in the business, so you shouldn't mention blah, blah, blah. Like,
yeah, it's just very, very dumb.
You know, as those same people talk shit about like football, never played a day in their lives, but whatever.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about more stupid people. The Texas governor and all their senators and anybody who has any official position in the state of Texas. Like, good Lord. So we didn't stream last week because I got tied up in a bunch of things. But during that, Texas had this huge snowstorm that came out of nowhere where they had sub-freezing temperatures, not a ton of snow, but enough snow to cripple them because it's Texas. They ain't used to snow. And iced over conditions. It was really, really bad. There were people who died. Let's say 800 people or something like that. Or maybe I'm like, that's an overflated number. I'm not sure, but people died. They were out of utilities, water, electricity. A lot of people were out of them for like at least a week. Um, Very crazy situation. And through this, we got a lot of fumbling from Texas officials. The governor, of course, saying stupid things. People talking about like, what was that mayor said? It was something to the effect like, well, yeah, we shouldn't have electricity. Like, we'll be fine without electricity. It was something really stupid in regards to like, it's okay that they don't have electricity or they don't need electricity or something like that. It was just a lot of stuff. I wish I would. This is why I wish we would have recorded when it happened, because a lot of the stuff I was hearing, I was just like, huh? I just wanted to like talk about it, but it's a lot of fallout has come out from that. You find out that none of their power plants, including the nuclear power plant, by the way, were fitted for extreme weather conditions. So a lot of the failures came from that. They tried to blame it on wind turbines, even though, again, pipes for natural gas and tubes for nuclear power were freezing over because they're not fitted. They found out that the wind turbines didn't work because when offered the chance to get weatherproofing, the state of Texas turned it down because they're like, we're Texas. We don't ever deal with any weather changes. We're fine. And just a whole bunch of mess that left a lot of people in a bad way. And now Texas is going through a relief. I think Biden was just there either today or sometime this week, helping with the food bank, because there's still people who, haven't been able to get food and stuff like that. And, on top of a pandemic, it's kind of hard to deal with.
Yeah, it sucks. Many ways. I should be surprised, but I'm not, at how fast Republicans tried to turn this into a fucking thing in their favor. I mean, one, the speed, but two, just the level of stupidity in the lie. Like, yeah, this is what happens when if we do the Green New Deal, we're not gonna have fucking electricity. It happened because the wind turbines froze over and blah blah blah.
I cannot believe that the governor came out and said that, well, see, the wind turbines didn't work. This is what's going to happen to us when the Green New Deal takes over. No, it's not.
But back in my day, you at least had to kind of like try and tell a lie that felt kind of close to a truth, like something that made some kind of sense. You gotta have to pretend like there was a truth that existed and that you were trying to dance around. Like, the lies are so fucking blatant. First of all, how much of its power does Texas even get from that? Like, it's in the 20% or something, right? Like, it's not as if it's the majority of power in that state. Second, and this is probably the bigger problem, and then probably officially they said it was, the other equipment also froze. Natural gas, coal, all that shit. Their equipment wasn't weatherproofed either, and it froze. That's why so many of y'all got fucked. So like, this idea that like, yeah, the wind turbines. You think in Texas all of a sudden all y'all were getting your power from wind? What the fuck? Like,
yeah.
None of y'all noticed that like one day we just got the majority of our power from a bunch of wind turbines out there? What? Come on, bro.
Yeah, because I feel like part of the new Green Deal, since it's about having sustainable, key word, sustainable, ecologically, like, safe power sources used, I feel like they would put the weatherproofing in there.
Well, if not, there's definitely a chance to start. But yeah, they'd be more inclined because they also acknowledge that climate change is a thing and know that more extreme weather is going to occur. as it is. I just couldn't get over how bold that fucking lie is. You have people dying in your state right now, and your first and only priority was to start lying so that somebody goes and punches AOC in the face. Like, what do you want?
It's not only just lying, but to start to like take a political jab. Like, your concern shouldn't be trying to make, liberals look bad. Your concern should be my fucking citizens don't have power, they don't have water, they don't have plumbing, they can't get to food. Somebody help. That should have been your statement. Fucking mocking something that makes no sense for you to mock because you're not even doing it correctly. At that, it's just stupid. And then we come to find out, something I didn't know, that part of the problem with getting them help is that Texas disconnected themselves from the national grid and they maintain control of all of their utilities. Meaning they don't have to follow regulations, which further shows why shit failed. Because they believe in the free market for this stuff, so they just let these companies do willy-nilly. And these companies did that, and look at the results.
You never think about the nature of the grid, but I bet along with us, many Texans learned that they're not connected to the rest of the country as far as their power grid goes.
One person learned the hard way when this guy who actually was able to maintain power, after this all started, I think it's called ERCOT. I forget what the initials stand for, but they put out a notice to people that that as a result of this, we're going to have to raise prices on people's utilities. So that was the first fucked up thing that they did. The second was there was a guy who maintained power. So because he maintained power over that week, when he got his fucking electric bill, it was over $16,000. Guarantee you that guy wasn't doing $16,000 worth of electricity during that week. Unless he was charging every fucking electric car in the state of Texas and everyone's phone within his city, letting everybody come over and take turns, charging their devices and shit like that.
He had a bunch of daisy chaining across the neighborhood.
Right. Unless he turned his house into a public charging station, I don't know how he could have sucked that much electricity out in a week's time.
I heard that was going to happen. I haven't read into that. I don't understand why. I mean, maybe you could explain it. Why did that charge happen? Why? What is the justification for charging more, and why did they do it? I don't understand the logistics of that.
And no one actually knows anything concrete because it's considered a free market and they're able to make up policies as they go along. That's just one of the things. I guess they figured maybe he was someone with money. I'm assuming he has money. And so they were like, well, he's worth a lot of money. Let's just foot the bill that we couldn't put on everybody else on him. I feel like that's part of what it is. They felt like they had to make up the shortfall somehow, and this was how they're going to do it.
I'd be curious if anybody knows that, because again, I heard about it and I just don't understand why or how or what the fuck about that particular part of the problem. That alone confuses me. You mentioned that they've had the opportunity to weatherproof their stuff. Yeah, historically, there have been a few cold snaps in Texas in which malfunctions occur, and they do the investigation and they realize we should weatherproof this, and then they don't. Obviously, as you see now, they should. There's a lot of issue with that too, though. Somebody was bringing this up, and I do think it's a fair point with like a lot of things, at least in our society. When a disaster happens, relief is a very popular thing. Like, everybody wants the relief. Everybody can kind of agree on that. But when it comes to making preventative measures, that's not that popular. Not just among politicians, but like among people in general. Like, hey, can we, raise taxes to, prevent against certain such and such? Like, no, I don't want to pay more money. Like, when is that ever going to fucking happen?
And see, that's the fucking thing that bothers me the most. It's not just about making preventative changes. Like, sometimes things happen and you don't see it coming. And then you look back and you're like, gosh, who would have thought that would happen? Let's work on making sure this don't happen. You move forward that. A lot of these situations, especially lately with situations where we've had major relief, being to ask for, such as, I hate to bring it up, but the New Orleans thing, they told them that they needed to reinforce those levees a long time ago, and that they weren't going to do the job if something major hit. It had been a known element in the situation. So what happens when a major storm hits? You had the Katrina fiasco, and it's just like, you could have taken care of this like so long ago, and maybe the storm would have still hit and caused some significant damage, but maybe it wouldn't have caused the damage that it did. Like, maybe you wouldn't have lost your city like you did for weeks upon weeks and things like that. Like,
I mean, I had to bring it up because it's a much harder problem to deal with, but it's not like we didn't know that a pandemic could happen. They have happened historically. We understand evolution.
Obama set up a strike force for that. Why? Because that's the perfect example of reacting. We had the fucking, what's his name? H1N1 shit. It wasn't that big, but it was scary enough to where they were like, yo, we need to create a task force and have like people readily watching for this shit. So if it happens, they'll be able to pivot at a moment's notice, and we could start like formulating the plan as quickly as possible to deal with it. That's what you need to do. Of course, Donald Trump comes in and was like, yeah, we don't need no shit like this, and got rid of it. And now look at the results.
And, again, like, people don't want to be proactive and take preventative measures. It might have been on John Oliver's show, not that he's back, but like, he was showing this clip of this scientist, I think, taking swabs of bats or whatever, doing research on, tracking the virus and all that stuff. And she was sort of lamenting, how hard it is to get grants and funding for research. And she's like, it's a little better now because the world is fucked and we all kind of want to fix it. But she was like already lamenting that like after this is done, it's going to be hard to get funding again. And it's like, that alone is a huge thing. Like, we could do better funding scientific research to help solve and prevent other problems. Like, just spending money on science in general is like a fucking issue with people. NASA just landed what's the name of the new rover? Perseverance?
I forget the name, but yeah, they just did that.
So
we get selfies from Mars.
And like the first comment I read is like, why the fuck are we wasting money on space when there's poor people? Look how much money is spent in the fucking military. And you're talking about like the 2 cents we give NASA. Like, what are you talking about?
Right. Like, you're not complaining about all the bombs and the planes that they're fucking like creating. Come on.
Not to say that we shouldn't have a strong military or whatever. I'm just saying.
No, like, we shouldn't have the bombs and things that they create. Fucking Lockheed Martin and them shit and Boeing shouldn't get the money they get because they have enough. We have enough destructive shit. And it's not like they're doing any significant improvements or anything to make. They're just coming up with reasons to spend money. Let's be honest.
That was going to be my point. It's like, we have a strong military and we can have one for not this much money. Like, we don't need to spend this much money to have a strong military, one. And two, a lot of you don't really, I mean, look at like Republican politicians. Like, it's the only thing they'll spend money on, and they'll just like throw money at it because, yeah, the military's fucking awesome. Same people who won't spend a dime on like education or healthcare or things like preventing coronavirus or preventative measures against natural disasters.
Right, like if you're gonna spend this money on the military, can I please get a fucking real life G.I. Joe at least?
Can somebody to look up to, man?
You know, at least make this super force of super soldiers and shit like that, and these crazy costumes and these like crazy like experiment. Like, where the fuck is you know, by like snowmobiles with guns on the front of them and shit like that?
There were some stories a while back about like police department funding and like how much money they can fucking get.
Yeah, stuff them too. Like, good Lord.
Like, this is certain things that are like not efficient uses of money that you guys just accept every fucking day. But heaven forbid we actually learn something or do something. Fuck. Science is important, guys, all right?
Yeah, just think if you would have kept that like fucking pandemic strike force, how quickly this shit could have got addressed and halted.
Maybe we would have at least had like plans or something. Like, because somebody brought up with the Texas thing, it's like you kind of just always assume that in certain situations somebody kind of has a plan and knows what to do, is implementing it, and then it happens and you're just like, wow, nobody had a plan for real. Like,
yeah, because the weatherman reported this shit. It was coming. It's not like you didn't know the shit was coming. You had forewarning.
I mean, too late to weatherproof all that shit now, but like, yeah.
No, but the thing is, it's not. You would hope that in the aftermath of this, their leadership would learn, but I don't think they're going to, because they're all.
Yeah, I was going to say, I doubt it.
But you would hope that they would learn their lessons and do the right thing from now on and make sure that this doesn't ever happen again. But it ain't gonna happen because they're a bunch of fuckheads. So
I just mentioned the unpopularity because I want like citizens to take some responsibility for that too, because people's opinions on things are situational. Like, yeah, like when you're in the middle of it and you need relief, like, yeah, you're super on board. But like, if they said, like, hey, let's bump taxes for a little bit to fix this, or like, let's spend a bunch of money on this, people get a little weird if they're not in the emergency anymore. I mean, no, like you see that shit in just regular people's lives where like they'll kind of ignore, like, if something goes wrong with the house.
I mean, it's just like with everything. It's just like this whole big fight over the $15 an hour. Why would anybody need $15 an hour? You may not need $15 an hour because you're making $20 an hour right now. But, you know, somebody made a really, really good point about this. Like, think about the $15 an hour thing. If you were to make $15 the minimum wage, how much do you have to worry about people getting on welfare? Something that you hate, something that you keep screaming about your taxes being spent on. If you have a living wage, you would need less social services. I think you just muted yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was off before. Which means I was probably coughing all in everybody's mouth. I think it was a clip from Sarah Silverman where she said something like, you know, the Walton family who owns Walmart or whatever pays their workers so little, which means they need welfare, which means we, the taxpayers, have to pay their fucking thing because they won't. I was like, that is a kind of a dark but interesting way to look at that. Maybe that'll resonate with some people. It's like, you know, everybody's always whining about welfare and how tax money is wasted. It's like, well, you kind of allow for some of it because you allow for things like that, not having a proper living minimum wage.
Yeah, which would mitigate a lot of that stuff. Like, government assistance wouldn't be needed as much if people could afford things. Imagine that. And most people would prefer not to have to use that shit and to do things on their own. Most of us don't like being broke. I really don't. I can't think of many people who like being fucking broke all the time.
Yeah.
You need like somebody to help them out. Like it's.
You're correct. But I think, much like the power grid situation, like things need to be attacked on multiple fronts. Like, because I was talking to a friend yesterday or the day before, maybe. You know, they were talking about like my move from Florida to California. I just gotta mention, because I like to bitch about it, that in Florida, I was renting a house, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, garage, driveway, big backyard, $1,200 a month. It raised a little bit because I was there for a few years, and it's kind of raised with the property price or whatever. But $1,200 a month, all that shit. Here, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, apartment. My car's in a parking garage, like so far away. I hate to fucking go to it. Somebody probably stole it by now. $2,800 a month. It's more than double the rent of that house.
This is when like that Andrew Yang plan would come in great effect. Because you kind of need shit. That's the thing. You're in a situation where like you're making good enough money. Think about other people who live in like California and who have to like think about people who live in the city of San Francisco. Like the city of San Francisco, even worse.
Yeah. To be clear, guys, I'm not bitching that much because I moved here because I can afford it now with the job I took. So I'm not bitching.
But you you still should bitch because that's a lot of money. I don't care. I mean, I get it. You have it, but fuck that. You just almost tripled what you were paying for a house. Think about how that sounds. That sounds ridiculous.
Yeah,
that would bother me. It's not like you still to show the fuck off. You know what I mean? It's not like you went and you bought something out of your something well beyond your means on purpose to have that price tag. Like you just said, you're in an apartment basically. You downscale, and you're fucking paying more. Is.
I don't love it. I just meant the reason I brought it up wasn't to be all like, woe is me. You know, I'm better off than most. A lot of people. I don't know if I'm better off than most. Who knows? Probably. I brought it up just to say that part of the issue is that the cost of living varies widely in the country, and in some places, specifically like high population places like here in New York, can be fucking extreme. So you know, to like attack what's his name? I think it was Joe Manchin who said like, you know, maybe he'd support like $11 or whatever. Part of the problem with that is it doesn't cost the same to live everywhere. Somewhere the places it's really fucking expensive.
But here's the thing. Yeah, $11 an hour may sound more reasonable for, you know, the state of West Virginia, but that's not reasonable for them either, because you have to like, it's not just about can I afford to pay rent? Can I afford to pay rent? Can I afford to pay car note? Because if you live in a place like West Virginia, you're gonna need a fucking car. Like, you ain't getting around on public transportation. Can I afford car insurance? Can I afford my health insurance? Can I afford to be educated? Because once I got the education, I got school loans. Can I afford that? Better not have no children, because there you go with more debt. Got to pay for those things. Also got to pay for food. Also got to pay for electricity. Also have to pay for other things. Like, shit adds up.
I'm glad you brought that stuff up too, because that's part of where my point was leading. It wasn't just rent. And I guess ultimately what I'm trying to get at is it's not just that you would have to arbitrarily like raise the minimum wage. I think we also need to address the fact that certain things in this country cost too fucking much. I brought up rent because in certain high population areas, it's way too fucking extreme for no reason, no logical reason. But healthcare costs a shit. That I was talking to a friend whose insurance got to fuck them over a couple months back, and I offered to like, you know, maybe like send them a bit of cash to kind of maybe pay out of pocket a bit for a while they were figuring out what was going on. And they had said that shit would cost like I want to say 3,000 something a month for like one particular medication that they were on, and they were on more than one. I was like, I'm making six figures. Even that would be hard for me. Like, I would have to move out of here after like a few months of paying that.
That's a very good point, because it's like without the insurance that you can't afford to get health care anyway, because it's even exorbitantly more. Like, you see some people who are struggling to pay $150, say like they for some reason had to have 10 prescriptions. And those 10 prescriptions came up to $150. And you're sitting there like, well, it's only $15 per medicine. What's up? But it's only that way because their insurance helps keep that cost down. Those 10 medicines might be $150 a piece without it, if there wasn't any subsidy. So it's like, it's just because that's just not regulated properly. They can do whatever the fuck they want with the pricing if they want to.
Yeah, what's the other thing you brought up? Education was that one of the things you brought up. Like tens of thousands of dollars in debt you can easily be in. It's like,
yeah,
we allow too many things to be irrationally expensive in this country. I think that's a huge part of the reason why minimum wage, we feel need to push the minimum wage up. I guess we should probably still do that, but we need to address some of that shit at the top too. That's the other side of the problem, is the cost of living here.
Yeah, because to me, the $15 an hour thing is fucking like shouldn't even be a concern, because we're at the point now where it's probably too late to even raise it to just $15 an hour. Let's be honest. Like, most people can't. So, like, there used to be a time where, in my lifetime, I could say at least, there was a time where if you made $45,000 a year, you were considered like upper middle class. What's $45,000 going to do right now?
Honestly, it sounds like not much to me. It sounds like straight out of college money, but like,
yeah, that's what it is now. You know what I mean? So
straight out of college with no family to raise, I should say.
Right. Like, things have gotten so out of hand. Like you said, the cost of living has just continually gone up and up and up. Whereas, like, the last time that, we got a minimum wage thing to the, like, what is it? Like, the national minimum wage was raised to like $7, $8. Dude, I'd been a couple of years out of fucking high school when that happened. Think about that.
Yeah,
I was in my mid 20s at latest when that shit happened. It's ridiculous.
Things get more expensive, and most of us don't get much richer.
No.
Like, I'm relatively well off, but like that needs to be addressed, because as much as people want to like yell about the minimum wage and shit, part of the reason that we feel the need to push it up is because things are so fucking expensive. Living, I should say, is fucking expensive. If it wasn't that expensive, I mean, maybe we would still need to raise it. Just, I don't know. I'm not an economist, maybe do inflation or some shit, but we wouldn't feel this strong a need to do it if it wasn't so fucking prohibitively expensive to survive here. Especially in certain parts of the country. Problems need to be attacked, multi-pronged attack, I should say. So as much as people are bitching about like, oh, should we do this? Should we do that? If anything, it's not enough. You need to do way more.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're putting a Band-Aid on like one cut and you're still bleeding from the other side.
It's just sad.
I thought about that because I was just, I guess, a quick plug for this. What's his name? Chris Hayes on MSNBC. He has a podcast that I've just been listening to, and he talked a lot about the grid and the possibilities of like moving to smart grids and sustainable grids and all that shit. I was like, man, it would take a fucking lot to actually do that. Like, one of the problems they brought up is that each state kind of has the jurisdiction over how their power grid is set up. So it's like, if you want to like connect them all and make them this super smart grid and shit, you're dealing with every single state's local politics to do that sort of thing. Which they have no incentive to really do.
You got Texas who decides like to take that huge landmass and be separatists anyway to work around. So to get from fucking, goddamn Arkansas to Arizona, you gotta like fucking skirt that shit around. They're big asses. Like, and then you got the dumbasses like, the Republican governors in places like Wyoming and shit like that. That's good. Like, you don't need no grid like that. That's who cares about when? Like, okay, all right.
People don't want to be prepared for emergencies.
Which is why it amazes me how these other countries seem to just everything just flows with that shit. Germany, not a problem. New Zealand, not a problem. Yeah. They get their shit together.
We're America. We're allowed to take our time. I don't know if it was in that conversation, but they brought up the idea of the fact that we have states is one of the challenges. Like, those other countries don't really have to coordinate like that. Because there were many challenges they brought up with the idea of like making a stronger, more flexible national grid. But that was the one that kind of caught me off guard. I was like, yeah, like if the states are the ones that kind of control their state, part of the grid or whatever, in their own electricity and utilities, then you have to have a political battle in 50 fucking states. Well, maybe not Hawaii, I guess, but like, it becomes I would say probably impossible, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm not saying President Biden should just go in all 50 states and just punch everybody and, with his federal fists, but
yeah, it feels like this is the only time where we should go like, fascist or people. Just the sad thing is like it feels like you need to go fascist just a little bit just to make sure the right thing is done and then like go back to normal. Like,
I mean, maybe to make sure anything is done. Like we're not united enough to walk forward.
No,
we're like a person who like has two different people controlling the feet. Like it's really hard to walk if you don't control both legs and move forward together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully that shit in Texas is clearing up and clears up. Because I heard some like sad fucking stories, like kids freezing next to their moms and shit.
Mario pets dying.
Yeah, it's a brutal situation.
Yeah. Hopefully you don't get.
I had a friend call me like just yesterday, or probably Tuesday or whatever. And he was talking, friend from back in Florida, and he was talking about how he was thinking of moving to Texas. And that alone completely changed his mind. He won't move to Texas now because of that.
Yeah, because now they're just a bunch of fucking psychos in charge of that state.
I was like, I don't know what to make of his statement, but like it really scared him off that bad that like if there's another disaster like that they're not prepared at all. And we grew up in Florida where like our power was constantly knocked out by hurricanes. But so we were kind of used to it, but I guess it wasn't as rough. I don't know.
Crazy.
And you know what it really teaches you too? We are like a couple days away from just like society fucking ending. Like the second like water and electricity is gone, like people just can't manage and survive after like a few days.
If you've ever been without water, being out without electricity is bad enough. Being without water is the worst. Not having plumbing.
Right. Like I hope you guys don't think I was saying that to like make fun of them. I mean, I'm being serious. Like you kind of take for granted like utilities like water and electricity and the ability to like go and get food and shit. Like because it's kind of there every day for like most regular people, you don't really think about like, okay, what if it's gone? If it goes away for a second, like the first couple of days, it's like, all right, whatever, I can survive. But then like, what do you do? What do you do on day 3 and day 4 and week 2? Like a lot of us are a few days in, motherfuckers were burning their furniture to survive. That's why some of them died monoxide poisoning. So it's like, I know we like live in a society and like live in houses and shit and away from nature, but like we're kind of fucked if we just lose these basic necessities.
Yeah, now we're pretty in a bad shape.
You're always on the edge of like civilization just collapsing. You're only ever a couple days away from that. So we should strengthen our systems because it's a problem.
Yeah, and address things like, climate change and all of that. So we won't have to be like a video game, like that video game I was playing last night. That Outriders. And that's pretty much the premise of the game, right?
No, I only watched you play a little bit.
Yeah, basically Earth got fucked up and was falling apart like ecologically, and it just fell into chaos. Something came in and it like made it worse, and it fell into chaos. And it was like, oh, this planet's not livable anymore. We got to find a new place to live and sustain us. And your whole thing is you were trying to build back a society that's sustainable, so people could eat, like whoever survived could eat and have electricity and rebuild all types of stuff. Like, yeah. I mean, it wasn't necessarily because of just us. I think it was something that happened on top of us fucking it up. But they made mention like, yeah, we just fucked shit up. Like, so yeah.
You talk about addressable problems. We've known about climate change for a long time. We didn't figure it out yesterday. We just continued to fail to do shit about it like, for decades. Like, come on.
Yeah, and then we still resist it.
Yeah, first thing these motherfuckers said, it's like, see, wind turbines are bullshit. Like,
yeah,
it's 2021 and you motherfuckers are still doing this. You'd rather see the world end. Oh,
man. It's just something. All right, let us go. Thank you guys for watching and listening. Try to be back on schedule. We missed 1 week, so that's fine. Not missing huge clumps of time, like we were back in the day. But hopefully we can maintain this schedule. I have been streaming more, so you guys can check me out streaming. I did stream tonight because I recorded this, but I will be getting back to streaming, doing watch party. By the way, one stream that you're going to want to come by that I decided I'm going to do in the future if I can, I'm going to see if they have all the Zack Snyder DC movies available. Or at least some of them. At least Justice League. If Justice League is available, you know what's happening. We're watching that before we watch the Snyder Cut. Because that's the thing. We want to make sure we at least get to see that. Like, in fact, let me look now.
Get a nice refresher before you.
Yeah, like remember the pain before. Oh no, they don't have it. That sucks. But I could figure out how to do something. I know ways to do a watch along without getting in trouble. We're gonna have to do that. We're gonna have to set that up somehow.
Yay. Can't wait to watch it again.
Like if not on stream, then I feel like I should force this guy to sit and watch it like simultaneously with me, and we do a Zoom call. So we can go over the pain of it. Yes, we need to.
My favorite movie.
and it's gonna be his second favorite movie after the Snyder Cut.
I think I'd rather watch Thor: Dark World again.
Yeah, I can see that.
I'm not even being sarcastic.
In fact, I would watch Hulk over that. I'm not talking about the one with Edward Norton. I'm talking about like the first Hulk movie with Eric Bana.
I would, yeah, I agree. Solid movies.
But yeah, we're gonna figure out how to like revisit that pain for you guys. Because
But in the meantime, guys, check out that podcast. Chris Hayes, Why Is This Happening? Particularly that Powering the Grid episode is the most recent one. It's fascinating to think about.
yeah, it's the place we live in. All right, guys, we're out of here. Thank you again for watching, listening. We'll see you next time on The Reason Reborn. Peace.